Welcome to the Digital Transformations Project. This video is loaded with tips and tricks on how you can work with the Grade Center in the new LearnJCU Ultra. So what we're going to do today is set up the Grade Center columns and the overall grade for a subject. We'll add and delete columns. We'll create a custom assessment with offline submissions and with a pass and fail or complete incomplete type of marking scheme, as well as another few tips and tricks here and there. So let's get started. The first thing I'd like to do is show you the student view, so what the students are going to see with this type of Grade Center setup. So here I'm logged in as a student and I'm going to go to my subject and show you how the student is going to see the Grade Center. So what we're doing today is creating a number of assessment tasks that can be graded differently. So a certain amount of points out of a total, for example, the 69 out of 100, a pass or fail grading scheme, and percentages out of a total as well. We'll also be setting up the overall grade. So let's have a look at that from the lecturer perspective. So here I'm logged in as a lecturer subject coordinator, and let's look at the Grade Center for the exact same subject. So here we have lines with the individual tasks and an overall grade. Please remember you can move assessment tasks to other places by clicking on the arrows, the up and down arrows, holding your mouse and moving them around. Oops, I want that one to go back up. And you can go to the table view and look at them as columns. So what I've done here is I've marked some assessment tasks as a number of points out of a total of 100. I've marked some as percentages, and I've marked some as pass and fail. And I have actually posted these marks to my students. Now these students can also see an overall grade here, so a pass or fail in the subject. So now that I've shown you what you and your students will see once this task is complete, let's get started. Now I'm going to use another subject site to show you how you can create this one custom assessment task. I'm going to go into my subject site and create an assessment folder. So this subject has a very simple structure. I'm going to click here and create a folder that will hold all my assessment. I'll make it visible to students. And from here, I'll show you how you can quickly create this custom assessment task where the student submits a particular type of work offline. So for example, if you're assessing them at a practical class or they're submitting a piece of artwork, an engineering model, something that they're not submitting as a file into the learning management system. And we'll also customize the type of grades to pass and fail as opposed to the ones that LearnJCU offers us as default. So let's create that type of assessment. So I'm going into my assessment folder and I'm going to create an assessment task called Task 3. Now I need a little bit of documentation to capture exactly what that task is about. So I have my little cheat sheet here, and it could be your subject outline, for example. I'm going with the field excursion report. I'll pop that title over there. And I'm going to add some text about this particular task. So here we go. We've got a task description and the criteria that my students need to follow. I'm going to paste that there. Now, the other thing I want to do is add a little image that I prepared earlier so that my students know exactly what they need to do. So there we go. Now there's just a very basic description of the task. I'm not going to worry too much about due dates for the purpose of this exercise because I really want to show you the offline submission category and then how to change a particular assessment to a pass and fail scheme or complete incomplete. What I do want to do though is add a value to this task if need be. So if it was 10% or 30% or 5%, I would add it here in the title. You'll see where this will come useful later, but I won't do it for this particular task. I'm going to save it. And then in the settings, I'm going to show you how you can create the feature called offline submissions. So if you look at the assignment settings, you can tick collect submissions offline for any assessment. And what this does is it allows students to submit or attend a practical session that needs to be marked, and LearnJCU won't be prompting them to submit a document into a Dropbox. So this is how I do it. I'll go collect submissions offline, click done. I'll leave the grading as points at the moment, and we'll get back to this in a second. So now we know that this is an offline submission. Now let's say this is a hurdle assessment, for example, for medicine or dentistry or nursing, and I want to grade it as a pass or fail. How would I do that? So for that, we need to go and create a custom type of grading diagram in the Grade Center. So my assessment description is done, and every time you create an assessment task within your main subject site, a Grade Center in the column will be created for that assessment task. Now let's have a quick look at the Grade Center, and you'll see the task right there. So here it is in that line, and if we go into the columns, you'll see it right here. If you like, you can make that column visible to students by going to Edit and making it visible. That doesn't mean they'll see their grades. They'll only see their grades when you have posted them. Now, once again, back to creating the pass or fail or complete incomplete assessment type. I'm going in the Grade Center, into the assessment settings, and here I will find the only customizable setting of our Grade Center that allows us to change how those grades are displayed to the students. So currently, if you need JCU grades, for example HD, D, credit, in a particular column in the Grade Center, then you'll not be able to customize it to complete incomplete or pass or fail. So you need to choose one or the other. You see, the minute I change this to pass and fail, I lose my JCU grades. So for some courses, you may only need JCU grades for each student in the final subject results. So you may not need this to be in the learning management system. For other subjects, you might need JCU grades to be present. And then we will suggest another method for you to deliver results that are pass or fail. For the time being, let's go and edit that. So I want to call this pass and fail, but you could say complete incomplete. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill a few of these, just click on the rubbish bin and delete them, and I'm going to say that pass is a number value between 50 and 100, and fail is a number value between 0 and 50. Now, please make a mental note for yourself, or actually write it down, that these are the values you need to input. So when you're marking these students, 100 will mean pass and 0 will mean fail. That's the easiest way to remember for me. I'll give that a save, and I want to say yes to revise diagram. And that is done. Now, once I've customized my diagram, I need to go back into my assessment, so back into my subject site, and tell LearnJCU Ultra how I want to grade it. So back in the settings, the gradings now need to be changed to pass and fail, so that new category. I'll leave the points here, because remember, 100 was pass and 0 was fail, or any number between 0 and 50 was fail. Again, collect submissions, I've left it as is, and I'll save that. So what you'll see now is when we go into the Grade Center, I like the column view. When I mark this particular task, if I add 100, it will tell my student that's a pass. If I add a 0, it'll tell my student that's a fail. Alright, so that's how we customize a particular assessment task to pass and fail or complete incomplete. Alright, so let's fast forward in time to all the assessment tasks in this subject. So for the purpose of saving time, I've gone into this subject and created a number of assessment tasks in the same way that I've just demonstrated the one I've created previously. So now they are all here and I have 7 tasks in this particular subject. Now to make life easier, I've actually added the weights of each particular task and which ones will pass and fail when I typed in their title. That's just to make it easier for us to set up our overall grade at the end. But what I'd like to show you as well is that for each assessment task that you create within your main subject content, you'll see a column is automatically created in the Grade Center. So here are all my assessment tasks, and when we go to the table view, you can see all the tasks are here. Each one has a particular column where you're going to be grading your students in. Now please remember, you are not limited to creating the assessments. If you need to create extra columns, you can always click on the plus and say add item. For example, some of quizzes that might be done externally. You just need to click complete a few details. Again, I'm not going to worry about dates at this point, and this could be, let's say, a particular quiz that's external. Save that, and here's our extra column. Now, by editing that column, you can make it visible to students. That doesn't mean they'll see their grades. They'll see that column, but you'll only show the grades to students when you add them in and post. Now, you can also move them around by using the arrows. I find it easier in this particular view, so you hold the arrows and drag these lines around if you want to reorder them. Now I would really like to delete the one I've created, so I can just click on the 3 dots and click delete, and we're away. Now as you can see, there's individual weights to particular tasks in this subject, and what I want to do is set up the overall grade so my students can see whether they're at a good place or a bad place as they complete these tasks. So let's set up the overall grade for this subject. Now, by clicking on this symbol, you tell LearnJCU Ultra the ones that you don't want to include in the calculation. So for this purpose, I've added the weighting of these tasks to their names, so it's a little bit easier. But what you may need to do is have your subject outline or a little cheat sheet that has the weights of particular tasks available to you. This is the reason why I've added them to the names. So I'm going to go with 25 for the midterm test. I'm going to go with 25 as well for this practical one. These 2 tasks, 3 and 4, I'm going to exclude from the calculation. Basically, they are very important, and these tasks need to be completed for the students to pass the subject. However, there is a way I can override a student that has achieved sufficient percentage points and tell LearnJCU Ultra that this student failed because he didn't complete one of these mandatory tasks. I'm going to leave the bonus marks out of the calculation because it will throw off my 100%, but I'll adjust these last 2 and we are away. I'm going to leave the Grade Center item weights as default because I have not created category weights for this subject. And we'll leave that as is. So you can see now I have an overall grade column. You'll see it in this view as well. And as I enter values for students' individual tasks, you'll see that the overall grade will be displayed. So I'm just going to enter a few values here so you can see how that calculation is done. A student did really poorly, another student that did well. just entering some random grades there. And then once again, as long as they're included, as long as I'm working with the tasks weighted in this overall grade, I'm able to change it as I go. So that will continue to be a pass, but that one might become a fail. There we go. Now, one important thing to remember is that the overall grade will be displayed as the diagram that we have customized. So in the beginning of this video, we changed from JCU grades, HDs and Ds, to pass and fail. This is what rules the overall grade display. Now I'll keep going and I'll show you how you can override this if need be. So for example, if a particular student needed to complete the field excursion and didn't attend, and let's say, for example, got a fail, remember for this one, 100 means a, 0 means a fail, I can go back and override the overall grade. So once again, below 50 is fail. I had a pass there before. What I want to do is put a 0 in there, and the student failed because it did not complete a mandatory requirement. You can always click on it and undo the override, and that lets you see once again that average number based on the weighting of the tasks that form the overall grade. Now this number won't be displayed to the students because what this follows is the pass and fail grading scheme. But if you wish to display to the students a final weighted total from all the tasks that made up that grade, you can add a custom column as well. So there's two different ways of doing this. You can add a calculation through the Ultra platform, which I won't go into details of how this works right now, just for the purpose of the length of this video. But I'm going to show you how you could just add a simple column, weighted items total. Now I'm actually going to use the weights that I put in the overall grades as a little cheat sheet. So let's say maximum 100. I want to do percentages at this point, and I'm going to copy from here. So 72.5. Oops. And that one is 43.5. And off I go. Now I find this extra column a little bit easier to work with than with the calculations in the Ultra platform. Now please be mindful that if you do set up an overall grade, once you've released the results of all your weighted tasks, the students will see pass or fail depending on those individual results. So you do need to be aware that if the overall grade and the overall student results are still subject to moderation, you need to be careful about that last task that you're releasing results for. In this case, for example, the examination. And this is the reason why sometimes JCU grades will only be released, the final grade will only be released through each student. Now once again, if you need to add a column, you can choose the location. You can do this within the lines setup as well. So you just need to hover where you want to add that particular grade task, and you can go ahead and create it. Right, to delete a particular task, you can click on the three dots and delete. Remember, you can download a template and upload individual columns or full grade center results to LearnJCU Ultra. Once again, in the settings, you can see you can access your custom grading diagram, and you can change it. You can change the values if you wish to do so. Now, please be mindful, you cannot change assessment settings once students have already submitted assessments, unless you completely delete those submissions. Several things you can no longer adjust once an assessment submissions have started. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been useful.